This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas, and with Christmas coming, here's a candy cane scarf you can make. This candy cane scarf has a design that goes up and around the scarf continuously, so I've got a seam in it, but you see the seam matches, so the stripes just keep going up. I have several charts for that, and you need to put them in. I have just attached the cable from my laptop. It's a Design and Knit cable, and I've attached it to the 965i, which is a Brother electronic machine. I'm turning the power on, and I'm going to press 551, the step key, 1 step key, 901 step key. It flashes 903, then I press step, and I wait. When it beeps, it has successfully downloaded a pattern from my Design and Knit software. Now, you could put this pattern in your machine any way you like. You could punch a card, or you could beep it in using the input keys, or if you're using a mid-gauge, I've got an 8-stitch version. And if you have a 12-stitch machine, you can punch a 12-stitch card. I've got versions for all of those. Now, for me to start knitting with this machine pattern, I need to press step and put in that pattern number that was flashing, 903. And I step until the ready light comes on, just making sure that the machine is set on the number 1. That's the all over option. And I can remove my cable now, and I'm ready to knit the pattern. I'm going to knit a little miniature version just to show you the basic techniques. I have started my scarf with about 1 inch of waste yarn. This is a little sample. If you are making a regular size scarf, you want to go from needle 61 on the left to needle 61 on the right. And I talk in the pattern about how to do it on different machines and different gauges and different widths of pattern design. This technique will work for whatever Fair Isle pattern you want to use, because it's going to be folded over and seamed, and all of the Fair Isle floats will be inside the scarf, so they won't be able to be snagged or give you any problems of that nature. Now I'm going to start with one plain row of white, and in this plain row of white I am going to select needles for the pattern. My carriage happens to be on the left, and at the far left side I'm taking it outside the turn mark so the machine will select needles. And then I'm turning it to KC1, which will always select both of the end needles. And now I'm going to knit that first plain row. It's a setup row, and we'll go have a look at that. Here's how that setup row looks. Some of the needles have been selected into D position, and those needles will have red yarn on them, and the others will have white when I knit my first Fair Isle row. Now to do the Fair Isle, I push in this top button. This is always done after the first row and the needles are selected, and it has an MC on it, and that stands for multicolored in my mind. That's a great way for me to remember which button it is. This bottom button I don't push in. It's for thread lace, which is not what we're doing today. So I'm going to put the red yarn in the front feeder, and now I'm going to do some rows of scarf. As I knit, you can see how quickly it forms. We're looking at the purl side, and these long loops are floats, but it's okay. They're going to fold to the inside. Now, how long are you going to knit? The scarf is 6 feet long, so you're going to knit quite a while, but in my case, I am just doing a sample to show you the techniques, and my sample is small. After my scarf is long enough, I'm going to turn off patterning. I just roll this dial from KC to NL. NL I think of as normal lace. And then when I go on across, I'm going to get one plain row. And I will cut the yarn. I'm cutting the red. On the white, I'm going to leave enough to do the mattress stitch seam down the side. So I've got quite a bit of white here. I'm going to finish my scarf off by knitting a couple of inches of waste yarn. I'll take it off the machine and we'll have a quick look at how the sample is turning out. Here's my sample. I have not sewed it into a tube yet. It doesn't match on this side because it's so rolled up. Now, I found when I was making my scarf that it was much easier to sew if I steamed it flat first. So I'm going to steam this and come back. A quick word from the bear. If you're watching this video on Facebook, over in the Facebook group files, you will also find the written pattern. Thanks for joining the Knitting with Diana Sullivan group. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, do us a favor and click on subscribe and like. Now let's get back to making this scarf. I put a towel over my knitting machine and I brought my steamed sample over to the machine, and here's what the inside looks like. Here's what the outside looks like, and I just want to illustrate that the mattress stitch seam goes one stitch from the edge, and that edge stitch is always red, even in the areas where it would normally be white, because that's always a selected needle. Therefore, that row right there, that line, one stitch from the edge, that's where I'm going to mattress stitch. I'll turn this over and I fold it into place. It's pretty tiny, but it's going to be a good sample for mattress stitching. Let me start by threading my needle. I take the end of the white yarn, fold it over the needle, squish it between my finger and thumb, and then push it through the eye of the needle. It's a really quick, easy way to thread a needle. Now, I find that edge stitch, that line that I'm going to go inside of. So this yellow down here, that's my waste yarn, and I'm going to go a whole stitch above it. I'm going in this white, staying out of that yellow. And then on this side, I want to get one stitch from the edge and through that first loop. Now, over on this side, I have to be thinking about what's going on in the design, a stitch from the edge. So right now, if I were to fold that up, you see, this white would match to the here, and this red would match to here. And I want to just keep matching that. So I'm going to go here, right before the red, that is one stitch in from the edge, and go in there, which means on this side, I'm going to go right before the white, that's one stitch from the edge, and go there. Each time I go in where I came out. So over on this side, I came out here, I'm going in, and if I look at what's happening, a stitch from the edge, it's 2 rows of red, and I'm going in the middle of those 2 rows, getting that horizontal bar. Then I go over to this side, and I go right in the middle of those 2 rows of white. See, there's a white stitch and a white stitch, and I'm beside the middle of that. Then I go over here, go in where I came out, come out one stitch from the edge, right at the beginning of that white. Then when I go to this side, I will come out, if I go in where I came out, and I can see where I came out by the yarn coming out there, so I go in that same hole, come out, just at the beginning of this group of 2 reds. And then every so often, grab this end and pull it up, and you see I can make sure that it matches. So I will keep on mattress stitching and get this sewed up. I like to leave it loose, and then every 5 or 6 stitches I pull it up. I find the white very easy to see and the red a little more challenging to see. But after you sew for a few minutes, it gets much easier. Now, if you're sewing along and you don't like what you're getting, you can go ahead and pull it out pretty easily just by unthreading your needle and then pull the 2 sides apart and find the last stitch you did and just pull it out, and the stitch before that, and so forth. Actually, I'm very happy with what I did, so I'm going to keep on sewing. I'm going to get this mattress stitched, and then I want to show you how to do the self fringe. I'm bringing out needles number 1, 11, and 13. The 1 is on the left of 0, and the 11 and 13 are on the right of 0 in the green. I'm going to E-wrap on with both strands of yarn. Each strand of yarn is in one of the upper antennas, and I'm E-wrapping on loosely, working from the left to the right because my carriage is on the right. And I'm going to thread the yarn in the carriage with both strands in this back feeder, the A feeder. So I opened it and I'm closing it. That's how that is threaded. Now, how do I begin to pick up my little bitty scarf and put the fringe on? I'm going to start by finding the very edge white stitch in the scarf. I've rolled down my waist yarn. I'll tuck my ends inside and just roll this down far enough so I can easily see the waist yarn, and even a little too far works for me. Now I see that my very edge stitch over here, if I really unroll this, is this one right here. Tiny little thing. Not the easiest thing to pick up, but I poke at it and I get it. Then I go to the back, unroll, 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 look around, find the very edge stitch. These are the white stitches that are poking out from the waist yarn, and I put them on there like that, and I knit 2 rows. And I'm going to hang a weight over here just to pull that down so it always knits off. And my fingers are over here, so it'll knit off. Now, I've done my first one. I'm going to do my next one, get this second stitch from the end. It really helps to have that waist yarn. Fold it down, and then in the back, I need the second stitch from the end. So I'm fiddling this, lifting it up so I can see it, and getting it on my tool. And then I put them both on this needle, knit my 2 rows with the 2 strands. And then, you guessed it, I'm picking up my 3rd stitch. I'm just trying to get the stitch and not the waist yarn. Got it. And back here, I'm going to try and get the stitch and not the waist yarn. Sometimes I'll jab at it, get it loosened up a little, and then jab at it again and pick it up. So I just repeat this. I'm going to go across until I run out of these little stitches to pick up. Next one's here. Got him. And it really helps me if I put my fingers in it from the back. There's that next one. And I put it on. And I'll get these picked up all the way across. Each time I get the two, I go across and back with the machine. And I'll be back when they're all picked up and show you how to end off the fringe. This is absolutely what you would do on your wider scarf. It's just the miniature version. Here I am. I've just picked up the very last stitch. And how do I finish? I go across. Then I drop these two rightmost stitches. Bring the needles out, push the needles back, drop them. They're going to be unraveled anyway. And then I knit across, and then I cut the yarn. And then I just pull the yarn through that last loop. Pull, pull, pull. And this is my fringe. It doesn't look like much yet, but give me a minute. It will start looking better. I promise. So I'll put this needle out of work and get the hardware off this. And I want to unravel this waist yarn, this orange stuff. So I'm grabbing the orange stuff and I'm unraveling it. Okay, so I have that orange stuff off there. Now I need to get these unraveled. Now you need to do it right away because if you leave this knitted, it will get kinky from being knitted. And I'm just going to take the point of my scissors and insert it in these loops. And I like to gather up several at a time. So put my scissors in and actually use the scissors to unravel. And I can even use my finger to help hold them on the scissors. After I have several, give it the snip. I'm going to trim this fringe, but I'll do that in a minute. Okay, just a few more to unravel. This is actually the last loop. So there I go. Everything's cut and looking pretty shaggy. So I'm going to hang them from the gate peg. And then I'm going to have a look at it and give it the trim. First of all, on both ends, at least on one end, you're going to have something that sticks up instead of doing what you'd like it to do. What I'm doing is I'm taking a latch tool and I'm not pulling it through where it came out of because that'll make it unravel. But I'm going to pull it through a nearby stitch so that it hangs down instead of straight out to the side. See, that looks better. And then the next thing I'm going to do, and then I'm going to give them a trim. I'm just going to pretend I'm a hair cutter, put my fingers on them like that, and then snip right on across. And I think that'll be straight enough. I have one more step before my scarf really looks good. I'm going to give it a good steam with it folded in half. Did you enjoy this content? Do you want me to be able to keep on teaching machine knitting and providing free patterns and lessons? Do me a quick favor and click on the subscribe and the like buttons. That helps me with the YouTube algorithm. So there's my little miniature scarf, which has all the same techniques as the big old 6-foot-long human scarf. This pattern is free on my Facebook group, And my Facebook group is free. It's in the links. It's called Knitting with Diana Sullivan. So if you join the Facebook group, you can get all the information to knit this in all gauges and have several choices of charts as well.